If you felt stuck before, or you felt like something's missing in your life, maybe there is something missing. Maybe you've been chasing a goal or you keep on checking off boxes. Yeah, you seem to be doing everything right, but deep down it still feels empty. Trust me, I know exactly how that feels. What if I told you that finding your purpose isn't really about discovering something outside of yourself, but reconnecting with who you've always been? Purpose has been a very strange discussion for me in my entire life because I had no guidance growing up. I left to the military at 18 because I needed a way out and I didn't really have a father figure in my life, for crying out loud. And so it's not like I had someone to teach me the ropes or show me how to properly be a man, whatever that may mean. I have my own definition of that. You might have your own definition of that. The reason why purpose has been a strange conversation for me my entire life is because the constant search for purpose really got me lost until I shifted a little bit and I said, well, maybe it's not about purpose, maybe it's about my mission, as if I'm somebody special, right? That's taking into account that I feel like I'm something special. That's the acknowledgement that maybe I'm something or someone. On the offhand that I'm not, then well, all of this is meaningless. And trust me, I've traveled both paths and I've journeyed both ways. And so I kind of merged the two. I'm right here in the middle where I don't think I'm anything special. I'm not some heaven sent angel. I'm not a son of God that's going to transform the world. I don't think. Hey, if that happens to be the fate that's preordained for me, for my life, cool. Let's rock. But I don't think I'm anything special. But what allows me to keep pursuing things and what allows me to keep unlocking and opening new doors and what allows me to sum up enough courage to wake up every day is acknowledgement that maybe I'm meant to do something on this earth, not just exist. Maybe something beyond me. I call it God. You can call it the universe or the creator or energy. Same thing. Maybe that sees something in me that I don't see myself. And so with that taken into account, I've found a way to live somewhat of a meaningful life despite me living a life of no meaning in the past. And trust me, I know how that feels. There was a time where I thought success meant everything. And well, success, how I defined it back then, was tangible. Everything that I used to define success was purely tangible. A dollar amount, accolades, the cars, the house, the repertoire, people telling me I'm the best. Here are your roses and flowers. You are so good at what you do. Wow. And I said, well, is that really my purpose, to constantly live in search of meaning by means of seeking external validation from the external world? I'm like, when I said that, I didn't really like it. I said, well, no, I don't want that to be my purpose. I would wake up so many days when I was in the military. Those were some tough moments, not because the military is tough. It's not like I went to war, but I had time to think. And well, there's magic that happens when you sit down and you have time to think. You reanalyze, you restructure, you kind of decompress, you break things down, you unzip things and you reorganize trains of thoughts. You build new foundations and structures for how you perceive the world, and the lens in which you see the world, you begin to craft it in a way where it's not something that was a byproduct of your environment, but it's now uniquely shaped because of you, because now you've had time to think. Or it can be devastating because after that, you're like, well, I'm just a speck on this great big rock. What the heck can I do? And so, well, I fell down that path. I've journeyed both. I felt so inspired. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna live a meaningful life. And after all that, I'm like, well, is there meaning? And I don't want you to feel that way. So if you feel like you've been caught in that, I want to try to help. And I'll share with you everything that I've learned and what I've used to discover I'll put quotes on it, purpose, how I've somehow found what my mission on this earth is. And this is what worked for me. I hope you can use it so that you don't feel the way I felt. And so, we can start with, what does it even mean to find your purpose? It's great to define things. I love defining things because when I give things a definition, what it does is it helps me helps me to see the world and understand the world in a way that's just a little bit more comprehensive. I don't think I know much. I don't think I know anything. I am still trying to figure it out, and I've been winging it my entire life. And to a degree, I am still just winging it. I cannot claim that I know it all. I'm only human. I am certain of one thing, which is I'm uncertain of a lot of things. That's the one thing I'm certain of. If there's one thing I know, is that I know nothing. So purpose to me isn't finding a single magical answer to life. It's creating alignments between what you care about, what you're good at, and how you can use that to give it to the world and serve others. And hey, I do this for you. Here it is for you. Which, to a degree, was my main foundational method to discover your mission. If you watch my old videos, you know that I say scrap your purpose. Some people, it's difficult for them to do because they're like, well, if I scrap my purpose, then my life is meaningless. So I've restructured the methodology in a way where this is how to find your purpose, but you do so by embarking on your mission. Only by embarking on your mission can you live a life of meaning where you discover your purpose. And I used to teach this, and I still do, which is scrap purpose. You're here, you're going to exist, you're going to experience, you're going to see, you're going to feel, you're going to fall in love, you're going to create babies, and you're going to die. Try to avoid that. I dare you to try to avoid any of those steps. You can't. You're going to feel, you're going to experience, you're going to fall in love one day, you're going to freaking reproduce one day, hopefully, given that you are in top-notch shape and health. Now, if you are not, then I do apologize for the assumption. When we talk about purpose, it gets you discombobulated because it makes you feel like it's endless. So I said, scrap it. Screw that, focus on your mission. Mission? Well, what's my mission? Well, it's something that you have to get done. No matter how you want to play the cards, no matter where you want to travel, no matter what direction you want to take, you cannot escape the fact that you have a mission, and until it gets fulfilled, you will either one, end up in this reoccurring loop over and over and over, or when you finish the mission, you are tasked with another. And that's the life where you climb and you climb and you accomplish and you accomplish, and it's the next challenge, and it's the next challenge, and it's the next challenge. Sometimes it takes people a whole lifetime to just finish one of their missions. I don't think we have one mission. I think we have many missions that we have to accomplish, and it's uniquely different for each person in their life path. But you are given an initial mission, and if you can accomplish that mission and job gets done, you will be tasked with another, because now you are what we deem worthy enough of given another mission. Here's an example. Let's say you have a group of men or women and you need one of them to do something. If they do it, the likelihood of you giving another task to that person enhances, because you're like, well, they carried that out. They can carry this out. Now, let's say you task something to somebody and they don't really get it done. The likelihood of you giving them another task is you just won't, because you're like, well, you can't even get that done. So to a degree, that's our life, right? Until we figure it out and get something done, we might just end up in this loop. So your mission is something that you have to do, and it involves you giving to the world. You can discover that by saying, what am I naturally good at that everyone seems to tell me I'm good at, but to me it's just another day. It's called step one, which is understanding your gift. Once you understand your gift, Mold it. Enter the season of solitude and isolation and get really good at it. Whatever it is, you're good at something. Singing, the piano, talking, speaking, writing, art. It's something. You need to enhance it. You need to learn the ins and outs about it. You need to get extremely good at it. Or you need to become prolific at it. Or to a degree, you need to become just a little bit better than you currently are at it. And in doing so, you've entered what we call mastery. Once mastery is good and you're past that phase, this is the phase of service where you're like, okay, I've got good at this one thing. What can I do to share this with the world? That's how we define serving the world. What can I do with this thing that I'm naturally good at, that I took some time to perfect? How can I share this with the world? Am I going to make videos on social media? Am I going to start telling people about what I do? And profitability is a natural result of simply asking the question, how can I share this to the world? You will just end up becoming profitable if that's your main concern. So no, not always do you just become this highly prolific individual that has mastered a skill, has a desire to share with the world, and you end up not being profitable. That's kind of the byproduct of entering these stages. You can think of purpose as kind of like a compass rather than a destination. It's not really a place you arrive at. It's the directions you follow that kind of help you make decisions and live authentically. And to me, living authentically is, what would you do if no one else was around? That's the most authentic version of you. If I was the only one on earth, I would not be wearing this jacket. I'd probably be in some shorts, no shirt, and slippers walking the vast planet. That's the most authentic version of me. Well then, but now you're restricted, right? You're in the system. You're in this world. It's not like you could just walk shirtless around the world. So you have barriers that kind of stop you from being the most authentic version of yourself because you have to appeal to the masses to a degree. We call that your persona. In psychology, we call that the persona. It's the mask you put on that you show to the world. It creates a film and it covers your most authentic self. But authenticity is, what would I do if no one was around? How would I think if no one was around? How would I feel about this if no one was around? If I was the only one on planet Earth, would I care about this? If I'm on my deathbed and I have one thing to tell somebody, would I say this? And so if you can take that into account, what happens is you say, well, no, yes. And you begin to identify what it is that you are truly passionate about. Not only passionate, but what you truly care about. We call these your values. All right? There's so many misconceptions about purpose, man. People think it's something you're born with, but you're not born with it. Unless you take my angle, which is our purpose is to live, experience, exist, create, feel, die. If you take that framework into account, sure, you are born with it because that's inevitably going to happen. That is a preordained fate. You shall do all of those. You shall be born, you shall experience, you shall somehow create, you shall somehow reproduce and feel and die. But let's take into account that maybe that's not everyone's purpose. Let's say we all have a purpose, and to a degree we all do. But it's not so grandiose. It's minor. It's minute. We have a purpose day to day in a conversation. I have a purpose right now as I make this video. There's a purpose when I wake out or when I work out, when I get out of bed. There's a purpose when I drink water. There's always a purpose, but those are minute purposes that create the grand scheme. Something that we can't really see. It's vast. It's extended, highly overextended, and we need to broaden our scope in order to see that far. If it's narrow, we can only see so far. But when it's broad, it's like, wow, I can see deep, far into what can be, the possibilities. So don't think it's something that you're born with. It doesn't have to be tied to a career. Purpose can be raising a family, creating art, or, for crying out loud, being kind to others. Here's an example. Someone who finds purpose in being a teacher versus someone who finds purpose in exploring and sharing knowledge through traveling the world. They both have a purpose. They're just different. Now, if all of us had the same purpose, I would argue that to a degree, the human experience would be less unique and The whole point of everyone having their own life path is to tell stories, which makes the human experience so unique because you can't believe someone experienced that. You thought your life was tough. Wow. You thought your life was so grandiose. Wow. Then you hear someone else's story and you're like, damn. And I know sometimes that's counterintuitive if you listen to my videos for a long time because I said, well, we all have a purpose. It's the same. I've restructured it to create a more coherent understanding of it. Instead of all of our purposes being the same, we all have a purpose. But the purpose is a byproduct of embarking on your mission. So that's how I've restructured it. So then now I guess the next question we can ask is, well, what's the struggle of living without purpose? What are the consequences? Living without purpose can feel draining. It's like you're just drifting through life without a map. You go through the motions, but everything feels kind of hollow. You might even feel trapped by a routine or weighed down by the expectations of others. You wake up and there's no life in your eyes. It's almost as though you lack the courage to simply breathe. It's hours of pondering that leads you to the inevitable nothingness, and you start saying, well, this means nothing. That's really scary. I've been there. I want to help you avoid that. It's like being in a room filled with noise, constant distractions and demands, but none of it matters because you can't hear. Those who have a why can usually bear almost anything. Without a sense of purpose, even small obstacles feel unbearable. But when you've identified your why, it's like, no, I am experiencing this because of this. It gives you the because. If you feel like you have no meaning or you don't have a why, purpose, then when you go through pain, it's just I'm in pain. It's not I'm in pain because I need to do X, Y, and Z. It's just I'm in pain. But when you have locked in on, oh, this is my why, and if it's not an act of fate, then damn it, it'll be destiny. This is my why. It gives you the because. It finishes off something that's been cut off in the middle. And so now it's you go through this because you need to do this, and you will do this. Without acknowledgement of that why, you can't create the because. It's just I feel pain, which is beautiful because there's a neutrality in that, right? You're not on opposing sides. You're not on the polar end, nor the bipolar end. You're not on the positive side of the spectrum, nor the negative side of the spectrum. You are neutral. And there's a purity in neutrality. But what I want to focus on is taking more of the positive portion of the atom as opposed to the negative. That's what I want to do. There's a void that's inside all of us. And if you feel empty, it's because you've yet to find the why. And sometimes we can't find a why because we say, well, how could a feeble, undeserving human like myself be capable or even be called to do something so grandiose that can possibly give my life some type of meaning and fulfillment? A lot of that has to do with what we've been exposed to. Things that we've been exposed to are meant to inspire. Some of the greatest people that have left their mark and they've impacted millions of lives. It's there for inspiration, but instead what it becomes is this curse to a degree, because now you see their life and you're like, wow, I don't have that. So you don't take the actions to try to become like them or even better than them or even try to inspire on that same magnitude. But what happens is you say, well, I don't have this. I don't have that life. I cannot do this. And it sucks you of everything. You start acknowledging what you lack, not what you have. Strangely enough. And to fill that void, man, people have coping mechanisms, right? They start scrolling through social media, binge watching TV, impulsively buying things just to feel. The distractions, not necessarily solutions. So before we continue, I'd like to ask, what distractions are you keeping You think there's solutions, but what distractions do you keep in your life that keep you from facing the real issue, which is possibly your need to find a why? You need it. Otherwise, it'll be this constant cycle of emptiness. And so, if you're in this constant cycle of emptiness where you don't feel and it's so emotionless and you're so numb, we need to attach a purpose to you. I don't care if it's a facade or an illusion, but the fact that you believe in something gives you hope, it restores hope. And so, doing something as simple as getting out of bed and trying just becomes a little bit easier. I've been there. I get it. I really do. For me, it wasn't one big moment, man. I had to ask myself a lot of hard questions. I had to look in the mirror and have some really difficult conversations with myself. I had to ask myself, what do I want to do? What do I want my life to look like? How can I make the future version of me proud? How can I make the little boy that was younger than me proud? What would 90-year-old me do? He's the most intelligent. What would he do? Eventually, life got tough and I was a victim of my incapabilities. And I embarked on a dark, twisted path. And I had to look in the mirror. I said, if I keep going this way, the likelihood of me doing anything impactful or meaningful completely diminishes. And as a matter of fact, it becomes eradicated. So I gotta make a choice, and I have time, so I can start small, no matter how difficult, because I have time. We want things now, this damn instant gratification that social media has given us, this immediate feedback of, oh, I want to feel this, let's scroll, boom. Dopamine is destroyed our, not only psychology, but our neural pathways, and we don't think how we are supposed to. We're supposed to be able to delay that. It's a skill, it's a strength, it's a tenacity within you that says, well, despite me wanting this right now, I know what's best for me, and what's best for me isn't necessarily what I want. I always say that we're not the best judge of what's best for us. We're the best judge of what we want, and what we want is not necessarily what's best for us. We only know what we want to feel. Whatever we want is because we imagine a feeling that comes with that want. And so the ask isn't an ask for the tangible. The ask is for the ask of the emotion that comes with whatever it is that is tangible. So it's like, oh, I want success. Do you want success, or do you think that the outcome of success are these emotions right here? Oh, I want that car. Do you want that car, or do you think that after acquiring and obtaining that vehicle, your life will go like X, Y, and Z, and people will say X, Y, and Z? So it's not really predicated on a want necessarily that's tangible. It's a want that's beyond something tangible. It's a feeling. I mean, I'd argue that sometimes we just want to feel, man. Feel understood, feel hope, feel happy. Some of us are wired to even want pain. So I'd say that we want to feel something. I mean, we all know how small we are in this great big world. And so we want to feel something that makes us feel just a little bit bigger. Sometimes, if you want to get out of that path, there are steps. And I've taken all these steps. And I know it's counterintuitive because I speak about how the whole spiritual mantra and the feel good and the routines are something that I just have no desire for. And it's only because I've journeyed down that path and I don't have a desire for it now. If you're in the early stages of personal development, in search of yourself, in search of meaning, and in search of the path that you're supposed to embark on, these methods help. It includes meditation, journaling, connecting with the divine and something beyond you. It allows you to feel. It allows you to progress. It allows you to get whatever is sunk deep in here, within the depths of your soul, your spirit. It allows you to get it out. And you physically see what it is that you want when you journal. You're like, oh, this is what I want. This is how I feel. This is why I feel that way. Take a walk, for crying out loud. No phones or distractions. Let your mind wander. Don't even try to solve anything. Just let it wander. Be an observer. Observe how you think, observe how your mind is working. Don't say why, don't even ask why. Just allow your mind to do what it naturally does, which is produce thought, and observe these thoughts as they come in. And I know that takes a lot of visualization and practice, but just imagine this is you and your way of thinking and your mind. You have to somehow take this, create another segment of yourself and step out of it like this. And so now this becomes you and you're watching you. I know it takes a lot of visualization, but it's the steps that I had to take as well. And I think a lot of people have to take those steps. There's no way to avoid those steps. It's part of the early stages of transformative growth. Well, now that you've embarked on the path, what do we do? Well, first off, follow your curiosity. Curiosity is like a breadcrumb. It's a trail that ends up leading to discovering your purpose. It's kind of like exploring a hobby. Let's say photography or writing. And in doing so, you just help someone else uncover their passion, right? The breadcrumbs. You followed one thing, which led to another, which led to another, and you're like, huh. You look back, and hindsight's always 20/20. You're like, huh. Isn't that a coincidence? No, it's not. It was welcome to fate. And well, I think you'll like this analogy. I had a hard time understanding fate and destiny coming up, and I try my best to define it like this. And I give an analogy. So I want you to think of opening up your phone, going to the GPS and putting directions to the nearest gas station. The GPS will tell you when you're going to get there, how you're going to get there, the fastest way to get there, because that's the destination. That's fate. It's preordained. This is the way it is. It's the fastest way. It's the best way. Destiny is when we say, well, I think if I take a different path, I think if I take the streets instead of this, maybe if I make a right instead of a left, I could get there a little bit quicker. And what'll happen is the GPS reroutes, and now you've just added an extra 2 minutes, and the destination is still the same. That's destiny. There's a notion that we are in control of our own destiny, and I'd say, well, to what degree? Because you can be in control of your own destiny to inevitably experience fate. Fate is something preordained, locked in. And I'm taking it from an angle that there is something above me, beyond me, that created me. I call it God. You can call it what you want. It helps me understand it. I just give it a name. It's God. I can say energy. I can say the universe. I can say a creator, a higher power, a higher being, a celestial body, a guardian angel, a guiding spirit, Jehovah, Christ himself. To me, they all feel and are defined in the same way. It's something beyond that restores hope, that helps you and gives you the reason and enough will and courage to keep breathing. It's so intelligent that it has preordained the fate of not only your life, but the life of every living organism that walks, lives, breathes, moves. The source and the origin of this magnificent, omnipotent, omniscient power, this energy, this force field of energy, this transformative force, the origin of it is somewhere else, not here in this physical plane of existence. But what happens is the source and origin is somewhere else, and it's so magnificent that it dwells amongst this physical plane, and it's the guiding principle behind everything that we do. I call it God. When we understand a concept like that, it's hard to say that there's not something calling the shots. And again, I'm taking it from an angle that I choose to take. I didn't come up religious. I was never taught about God in my household. The idea and the concept was never a thing to me. I choose to believe in God because when I look back on the past couple years of my life, I don't have an explanation. And I'm very analytical. I'm extremely analytical. And to a degree, I would like to believe that I'm precise in my thinking because I have a very intense imagination and I visualize things in a way where I create branches of possibilities that lead to more possibilities, and things that happen in my life, I don't have an explanation why besides something beyond me simply was in control. When I don't have an explanation for something, I know that it's something beyond me. Because if my feeble human mind cannot wrap its own head around what happened, I don't think it was meant to be understood, just accept it. So, given that we're taking that angle, fate is something that's preordained, it's set in stone. Destiny is, well, despite what's preordained, I call the shots and I'm going to mold my life how I want it. Yeah, you probably can and you probably will, and you will be in control of your own destiny to a degree. But if fate calls you to be here at this time and do this, no matter what you do in the middle process, we call that the destination, the path, the journey. No matter what you do in the journey, it'll always end in the same spot. Let's say your fate is to fall in love at age 36. I don't care how many people you try to fall in love with at age 20 or 21. It won't work. And if you think it works, it may in the current moment, but on a long enough time horizon, you see inevitably that, how strange. At 36, I met the love of my life. Welcome to fate. And that's something that I had to accept as well, that I'm not always in control. And I choose to not be in control because I am not the best judge of what's best for me. And if I go with what I think is best, I will make inferior, inadequate decisions and actions that may not necessarily help my journey, but if anything, it adds more obstacles that I have to overcome. And it's like I created the obstacle simply by thinking I'm in control. So I'm not really a control freak when it comes to life. I am very much comfortable with letting go of the control. What I do control is how much effort will I put into whatever it is that I want to do. That's the only thing I control. It's like, okay, if I have a desire to do something, is it my ego that wants to do it, or is it something beyond me saying, do it, move, walk? After that analysis, I say, well, regardless of what it is, this illusion that my ego wants to do it, and I think it's heaven sent, or truly, possibly, it is a mission given to me by the divine. All I do is I take a step back and I say, okay, no matter what it is, let's try as much as I can. So the only thing I'm in control of is the effort, the input. Okay. So all that to say, I'd say follow your curiosity. Breadcrumbs will leave you one way, and it becomes a ripple effect. You pick up one piece of breadcrumb, you'll be led to another and led to another, led to another. I mean, just take a look at your childhood. Things happen for a reason. If things did not happen that way, you wouldn't be the person that you are now, for crying out loud. You'd be something else, someone else. Here's something you can do practically. You can write down 3 challenges that you've overcome and how they've shaped you into who you are. And you start to connect the dots. You're like, wow, I had to meet this person at this time, at that moment, had this conversation. I had to be in this place, and I had to get invited to this place, and I had to just do this in order to do this. Everything adds up, and I'm unsure if it's fate or if it's pure coincidence. I choose to not believe it's coincidence. I choose to believe it's fate. There is an intelligence out here that supersedes our human capabilities, and we can't fathom how omniscient and omnipotent it is, but it's there. So you're in good hands, but you just have to sum up the courage. This is where, whatever that is, it's entrusted us with a mission to sum up the courage in order to embark on the journey. Without courage, you don't embark. With courage, you embark, and you are tasked with a mission. Hence, more obstacles that you're supposed to overcome, because the point of the mission is not to complete the mission. The point of the mission is to build you into someone that's capable of being tasked with another. Let's say you want to teach someone how to manage a business. You're not going to say manage the business. You're going to be like, hey, let's start small. Greet the customers. In doing so, when they greet the customers, they develop highly efficient and effective customer service skills. And so you're like, okay, next, answer the phone. And in doing so, they learn how to speak effectively, efficiently, without messing up. And then you task them with the next. So each task prepares them for the next. Hence, the mission. Whatever mission you think you have, whatever mission that we may have in life, it's not necessarily the mission. It's who we become while we're trying to complete the mission that is preparing us for the next mission, because you're going to be tasked with another. It's never ending, which is actually the beauty of life, because when you acknowledge that Everything shall come to an end, and death is inevitable, and it's right there creeping. That's what makes life so beautiful. That we don't know when our time is. It's the uncertainty that gives life meaning. It's the uncertainty of what will come that makes life so exciting. We just have to be okay with anything and everything going right, anything and everything going wrong. Now, after you follow the breadcrumbs and you follow your curiosity, it's good to align with your values. And to a degree, it's hard for me to say if every human should have shared values. It's tough. There's an objective and there's a subjective world, but it's very difficult for me to dissect and analyze because if we think something's objective, it's based on the notion that we have a truth that we choose to see. We choose to see the world a certain way. And so it becomes choice, which is highly subjective. Values are kind of like a guiding framework. Right? If you value freedom, your purpose might involve entrepreneurship. If you value connection, your purpose might involve helping and connecting with others, being of service. I had a lot of different value changes and shifts in my life. I used to only value tangible material things. Then I got so empty and low that I realized it means nothing. Jim Carrey has a quote and he goes, I wish everyone would become and achieve all that they want and become very successful and get a lot of money just so that they can see that it's not the answer. I didn't have to acquire a large lump sum of money to come to that conclusion. I came to that conclusion when I had nothing. And when you come to that conclusion before obtaining something or doing something monumental, the courage that you need to sum up is a lot. You need to sum up a lot of courage, and it's nowhere to be found because you've realized something too soon. What takes people years and decades and eons to realize, you've realized at a young age, and so it becomes highly difficult. For me, it was highly difficult when I realized that the money doesn't mean anything. The clothes don't mean anything. The designer emblem doesn't mean anything. The lavish life that I want to show on social media doesn't mean anything. I can't take it with me when I die. It was really difficult, but the one value that held steadfast was I would like to feel like I've made an impact, and I had to break it down in terms of practicality, which is, okay, if you want to make an impact and change lives so that you can feel good about yourself, Thompson, so you can feel happy as though you have some type of meaning and purpose, well, you should probably do something that's of service to people. And hence the reason I kind of described to you my 3-step process to embarking on your mission, because I had to embark on my mission at that time to be of service. Believe it or not, me making these YouTube videos is a form of service to me, because I had to identify that perhaps a gift I have is just using this voice, right? Whatever it is, I don't think it's highly unique like it's Tony Robbins. I'm nowhere at that level, but it's something different about me. I do it naturally. I'm not terrible at it. And I've been complimented on my ability to articulate and speak in a way that's, quotes, impressive, which I try to keep my ego in check, right? I don't let it inflate my ego too much. I just take into consideration. I say, well, okay, if I'm getting the feedback for it, maybe I'm meant to do something with this. And so I spent years isolating myself, learning. I said, okay, if I'm going to use this voice to inspire, I need to talk about something, and I can't talk about anything unless I know something. So it's time to learn. So I spent years diving into the books, anything I could get my hands on, YouTube podcasts, and I became a seeker of knowledge and truth to where now I can use this voice and teach you what I've learned. Some people may do that through writing. They'll write and they'll teach you that way. Some people will do it through art, imagery, symbolism. And I do it through speaking. So this is a form of service. And it's one of my values, which is I just want to be useful, and I just want to do something that makes me feel alive. I want to do something that I know that when I'm 90 years old, I'll be glad I did it because it helped somebody and it made someone's life just a little bit easier. And in doing so, you just end up serving others, right? Don't get too caught up in the whole idea of serving others. You will naturally serve others as a byproduct of asking yourself, how can I share this with the world? Find out your gift. What are you good at naturally? People have told you about it. They've reminded you. There's your cue. There's a hint from the divine. You're good at something. Master it. Isolate. Solitude. Repertoire. Over. Repetition. Do it over and over again. And then, in doing so, you become skilled at it. You can share it now that you're skilled. And when you share it, you provide value. And when you provide value, you help people. And when you help people, you serve. And when you serve, it gives you a sense of fulfillment because you live for something beyond you, other than you. And obviously, you can experiment. There's a lot of different things. I had to do a lot of different things for me to figure out that, hey, I'm finally here. That was part of my journey. I had to do this so I could see to avoid this. I had to be this so I could see who not to be. I had to see this so I can avoid this. And I had to experience a roller coaster of emotions to get to this point where I've truly identified that the calling I have, which I believe is everyone's calling, is to truly help the world, help each other, love. And I do that by means of speaking. You may do it by means of playing music, artistry, being creative, writing a song, art. You may write poems. You may be a comedian, make people laugh. There's always a form of it. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of deal. There's a lot of different sizes you have to pick, but you don't really pick. You've already been given a size. You just have to be aware of that size. Be aware of that gift. So don't be afraid to experiment. You can't think your way to purpose. You kind of have to act. Try new experiences without overthinking. On the off chance that you were supposed to do it, then you gain not only experience, but a beautiful story, and you get to tell it and it benefits you. And let's say it wasn't meant for you and you just embarked on a new path simply because you were impulsive. Well, hey, at least now you have an experience to share and you have a lesson that you learned. So you don't really lose in any way. You may lose time, but hey, it's like you still have time. I mean, what more can you lose? You have more of it. And if you don't, it doesn't matter anyways. Yes, our days are numbered, but we have enough to mess up and do things completely wrong and still end up figuring it out. Believe me. Trust me. You have time. So, after you follow your curiosity, you reflect, you align with your values, and you serve others by taking action, the next step will be building a life that you love. To design your ideal life, it requires you to know your purpose. And those steps previously were to help you identify your purpose, your why. Now, visualize your perfect day from start to finish. What are you doing? Who are you with? How does it feel? Integrate that. Micro habits, integrate that into your life. Look back on some of the most beautiful days that you've had in your life. Your goal is to create as many of those as possible. So if a good day to you was waking up late, being comfortable, watching a movie and spending time with loved ones, you might want to do that more often. If a good day to you was working until you were completely exhausted, but you grew, hey, you might want to do that more often. It's highly subjective. It's up to the individual. So it's up to you. I'll leave that in your hands. Small intentions. Small intentional habits that you practice daily compound into a life that's aligned with a grand purpose. Remember that you have purpose in your everyday life, everyday interactions, day to day. Don't be consumed with the day to day. There's a grand purpose that you have to be able to see, but be patient because it's not here. And so you have to just be present every day so that you can do this and you can do that. And you can take actions to do this, to become that, to acquire this, to accomplish that. And in doing so, a result of that is the grand purpose will just magnetize towards you. Not really because it magnetized towards you, but simply because you took one step closer to it. And so it becomes closer. It's closer to you now. It's not so far. Even when you know your purpose, fear and doubt will creep in. I promise. That's a guarantee. It'll creep in like a thief in the night, making you question if this is really meant for you. And usually you'll notice that a lot of it's predicated on fear and doubt. If you are second guessing something out of fear and doubt, it's a sign not that you should turn away, it's a sign that you should stick it through. Because if there were no fears, then you'd be too certain of it. And if you are too certain of something, then I'd say you haven't analyzed it thoroughly. You need to be uncertain of something to a degree that makes you uncomfortable. You need to be uncertain of something to the point where you have no clue what to do. You're not sure if you should embark on that path. For crying out loud, you don't even know what path you want to embark on. Uncertainty creates certainty. Certainty without uncertainty is, I'd argue, a delusion that has not been analyzed thoroughly, which can be very dangerous, so be mindful of that. So here's what I did to overcome fear. And here's what I did to break into big old habits by implementing little habits. So we'll start with fear. My method of overcoming fear isn't really the most practical, but I got so low to where I would go to sleep hoping that I would die. I didn't want to wake up the next day. I was 100% better off having my heart stop in the middle of my sleep than to wake up the next day. Happiness was so unavailable, and I predicated everything on happiness, so much so that I did nothing because I wouldn't move unless I felt happy, and it was just devastating. I overcame fear because I wanted to die, and so I overcame the fear of death, which I think is the grand fear. Any fear you have, you boil it all down and you regress it all down, it's death. Are you scared of failing? Well, okay, you're scared of failing because you're scared of wasting time, and you're scared of wasting time, and you're scared of people saying this and this about you, because when they say this and this about you, you'll feel embarrassed, and when you're embarrassed, no one wants to be your friend, and no one wants to be your friend, and then you'll be all alone, and you'll be all alone, and you'll be miserable, and you'll be miserable, and you'll die. Right? And so you're scared of roller coasters because you're scared of heights, and you get anxiety, and you get anxiety because you might fall, and if you fall, you might die. You're scared of a snake because they look ugly, and because they look ugly, you don't want them to touch you, and if they touch you, you feel like you'll get paralyzed, and you'll become this anxious mess, and then you won't be able to get out of this anxiety, and they might bite you, and the snake might seek and give you some of its venom, and next thing you know, you're in the hospital and you might die. So death is kind of the grand master of fear. You can overcome the fear of death simply by saying it's inevitable. It's truly a part of the process of life. Similar to how giving birth is part of life and creating is a part of life, so is death. Similar to how feeling happiness and different arrays of emotions is a part of life, so is death. It's inevitable and it's meant to be accepted, not feared, and you shouldn't try to find ways and methodologies to avoid death. You should find ways and methodologies to make peace and accept that it shall come, that your time is numbered, that your days are numbered, which gives life its meaning, knowing that your days are numbered. Knowing that there is an uncertainty, knowing that things can go wrong. What if things go right? What if everything goes right? We don't really think about that. It's like, well, I don't want to do this. What if I fail? What if you don't? Imagine. Well, I don't want to do this because I'm afraid I'm not capable. What if you're more than capable? Imagine. So that's how I overcame fear. Now, if I can break it down into practical steps, it would simply be step one. Start slowly with visualizing what death is like. And if you are afraid of death, it'll be this clutter of anxiousness where it leaves you in this dark void where you have to kind of shake yourself out of it. You get goosebumps everywhere. I remember at a young age when I thought of death, that's how it was. It was a void of nothingness to where I had to shake myself out of it. Continue to visualize that until it becomes something that's comfortable to visualize. And then continue to practice it until there's no emotions that's tied to that visualization of death. And so what happens is you become detached. And the art of detachment means I no longer have value, nor do I attach emotions to X, Y, and Z. In this case, death. And when you can overcome that, you'll notice that a lot of fears and a lot of restraints are lifted off of you. You become limitless. capable of doing anything that you set your sights on, anything that you want to do. Now, for breaking out of terrible habits and picking up good habits, I used to brutally, just forcefully, out of pure will and grit, pummel my way through. And that only lasts so long because intensity fades, consistency stays. Say it one more time so you can write it down, pin it on your wall. Intensity fades, consistency stays. So I became someone that started adopting the idea of micro habits, strangely enough. And well, I'll give an example. And I always use fitness because it's something that's easy to understand. And I try to speak in a way that's not too abstract. I don't make it too conceptualized. I really do try to break it down so that you can understand it. Because if you can understand it, the likelihood of you taking action significantly increases. And if you take action, well, you'll be better off and you'll be a lot better than me. And then you'll inspire a lot more people. And when you inspire a lot more people, you can create a ripple effect where people are inspired by you. They embark on the path and they inspire people and they inspire people. And the world just becomes a happy, jolly, magical place. It's a dream, but hey, I haven't let go of it. Micro habits. So let's say I took a few months off the gym, which I did. Going back to the gym and full forcing with intensity is very difficult because one, I don't have enough courage. I don't have enough resiliency or strength anymore. So instead of going to the gym and just saying, well, I'm going to do a full body workout and kill it, I say, well, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do a few exercises, maybe two. And the moment I get tired, I'm out. And the next day, I'm going to go to the gym again. And the moment I get tired, I'm out. And strangely enough, I just repeated that. And on the 7-day mark, I said, well, I could take a little bit more load. And on the 2-week mark, I could take more load. And on the 4-week mark, I could take a lot more load. And 3 months back, I returned back to how I was. If anything, I progressed. So I'm really big on micro habits now. The compound. There's a beautiful discussion about compounding that I think is very valuable, not just in financial terms, but in life where you stack wins, small win, small win, small win, small win, small win, small win. What tends to happen is we want a big win and we leap for another big win. It's like, okay, you're missing all the in-between. The in-between are the small wins that you can't escape. So stop trying to get the big win after big win. Let's stack the small win, and tomorrow let's stack another small win. And if you just stack all those small wins up across a long enough time horizon, we'll say a year, dude, you made it far. Extremely far. All right? And then, well, lastly, staying true to your purpose is very important after all this. After you discovered your purpose, embarked on it, spent time in solitude, practiced it, stay true to your values. Now, staying true to your purpose is very important. Now, purpose may change. I'm just telling you right now, your why may change. At first, your purpose may be, I want to become the best version of myself. And then it may be, I want to make people proud of me. And then I want to impress people. And then I want to inspire people. Don't necessarily look at the shifting of purpose as this bipolar act of not being certain. Think of it as you had a purpose before, you did, and you took necessary steps to try to take that why and attach some actions behind it. So now your actions have meaning, but that was to build yourself so that you can be worthy of grabbing another why. Let's say, I'm going to use fitness again. Let's say your initial why and your purpose to get in shape is to be the best version of yourself. It will shift, and now it's you want other people to be the best version of themselves. And now it shifts to where you want to help other people become better versions of themselves. So it was an initiation. It was one purpose that helped you take actions so that you can grab another purpose because, the first task was done. Again, I called it a mission in the early stages of this video. I said mission. You're going to be tasked with one mission in the beginning. If you can't accomplish it, you'll live in this loop, this cycle. So long as you live in that loop and cycle, you won't grow. To grow means you break out of that loop and cycle and you endure just a short period of difficulty. All right? Remember, purpose isn't static, it evolves. As you grow, so will it. It shifts, transforms, it transcends. My purpose shifted over time. I used to think it was just to be I was the black sheep and I was gonna break the chains and curses of my lineage. I mean, and then eventually I just got to a point where it's like, well, now I just want to freaking be of service and just give myself as an offering to people in some way, shape, or form. Because man, I'm gonna die one day, and this is all that's gonna be left. That's why I make these videos. I'm not gonna say it's entirely selfless. These videos are for me to know that I'm gonna die, and at least there's one way for you guys to remember me, and it'll be these videos. There's one way that people will know I existed, and it'll be these videos. There's one way for me to know that though I've died, I can continue to make an impact and inspire, and it's through these videos, one way or another. That's kind of my goal. And in doing so, I just happen to inspire. So the byproduct is that I end up inspiring because I had a why. I want to make something that will last and give me comfort as I'm minutes away from dying. And it kind of kills two eggs with one stone, or two birds with one stone. Here's some practices. If you want to stay in alignment and true to your purpose, ask yourself, what the best version of you that's embodying this purpose, what does that person do? What does that person's day-to-day look like? And just do that. Try your best not to acknowledge the vast, endless possibilities, because then you'll just see what you lack, not what you have. Again, reflect, follow curiosity. Stay in alignment with your values. It's what makes you you. Contribute, serve by asking, how can I share my gift with somebody? And you have to take action. And what'll help you take action is saying, I have the strength to do it, but I acknowledge the possibility of me not being able to do it. That's kind of why a lot of people don't take action. I know that was the case for me. I never took action sometimes because I said, well, I acknowledged how difficult it would be. I acknowledged the possibilities of failure, of all the things going wrong. But when I said, well, what if everything goes right? I said, well, I'll throw that gamble. You mean to tell me if I roll the dice right now, 50%, I just fail and I have more time to recoup, versus 50%, everything goes right and it just happens? I will roll that dice, because on the off chance that everything goes right, I'm good. And I just had to have enough courage to do it. So long as you draw breath, you will be okay. You don't need more than that. Coming from somebody who has lost it all twice. Nothing. Embarrassment, humiliation, ego and pride destroyed, worthless. I am telling you, it is not that bad. It sucks, but it's not that bad. So good luck. I want you to start your journey. You guys inspire me, believe it or not. I hear you guys' stories, I read your guys' comments, and you guys inspire me. So tell me something that you inevitably want to do with your life in the comments. I want to read. And then tell me, well, if that's what you want to do, what are you going to do about it today? What's a small step? What's the first action that you're going to take to just be a little bit closer towards that end goal? I want to see. I want to read. That's all I got.